and in practice, Stone had actually thrown like lasers. I mean, they were like, and if he'd have hit Farrell, he would have probably run in untouched into the end zone, but he put a little bit of air, which obviously the excitement, the adrenaline rush of like, I got to make sure this is a completion. I mean, it would have been devastating to throw an incomplete pass or throw it over his head. And
just wanted to give Farrell a chance to show off his athleticism.
Absolutely.
Plenty to reflect on in Episode 4 of Panther Talk with Butch Davis. A thrilling 41-17 win over Western Kentucky this past Friday. That earned FIU their 7th win of the season. We chat freshmen stepping up, what this senior class has meant, and all the wild plays from the win over the Hilltoppers as FIU preps for UMass this upcoming weekend. I'm AJ Ricketts, and this is Panther Talk with Butch Davis. All right, approaching the month of December and another game in the regular season for FIU coming up this Saturday, taking on UMass at home this weekend in the finale at Ricardo Silva Stadium. And boy, so much momentum around the program right now and a tremendous senior night as we're set for another episode of Panther Talk with Butch Davis. Coach, this past Friday, that was a bunch of fun. I mean, you got the defending Conference USA champions, you got scooping scores, midfield heaves, Stone Wilson slinging touchdowns. It had a little bit of everything, and it was an emotional game as well, honoring the 19 seniors.
Yeah, you know what, AJ? I mean, it was it was probably a perfect senior night for. We have 19 seniors on this football team. 13 are going to graduate this December. 6 of them are going to graduate in May, and 1 the first summer session. So all 19 of them are going to not only play and help turn this program around, but they're going to leave here with a college education, which is absolutely outstanding. From a football perspective, AJ, it's probably the most complete game in all 3 phases that significantly contributed to the success. Obviously, the special teams aspect of it. I mean, a fake field goal that turns into a touchdown with Stone Wilson throwing to Pharaoh McKeever was huge. Spoiling maybe a potential fake punt on their part by Jordan Guest and Devontae Price picking up the scoop and score and turning it around. I mean, those were 2 huge, gigantic plays. Special teams covered well. Stone had a great night. He punted 3 times for a 47-yard average. I mean, I just have to believe he's clearly the best punter in the entire Conference USA, if not one of the top punters in the country. And then you get into the defense. We did the things that we needed to do. We forced 2 missed field goals. We created 3 turnovers on the defensive side. The offense did something that we've really been pushing hard and trying to work on is finishing drives. Yeah. We talked about it after the FAU game that, we had 4 possessions between the 40s and we got absolutely no points out of it. And this time, when we drove the ball, we made first downs, we got down inside, we scored rushing touchdowns. Shondarius Phillips had a great game. I mean, he only rushed for 71 yards, but he ended up getting into the end zone twice, and he is a tough physical runner, and it is a great compliment between him and the other running backs.
And you noted after the game that you felt Western Kentucky was kind of taking away the perimeter, those outside runs, and so you told the offensive line, look, it's going to be smash mouth football, and that suits Shondarius Phillips so well. I mean, he had a season high, probably career high in rushes, rushing yards, and obviously he had more touchdowns in that game than he had the whole season. Sure. It suited his game really well.
And it was. I mean, I think that they had looked at a lot of the things that we had success over the previous, 4 or 5 wins with guys getting on the perimeter, getting on the outside. They played some overhang guys where they, either it was a strong safety or an outside linebacker that were on the edge, and then obviously, with big defensive ends and stuff. So, it was like buckle your chin strap, guys. This is what it's going to be. This is going to be punch them in the mouth every single time. And try to really establish a significant running game inside between the tackles, and we were fortunate enough to be able to do it. And one of the things, AJ, I mean, I've sold these guys the idea that there's 4 or 5 things that if you do, you got a great chance to win. One, obviously, is creating the turnovers, winning the turnover battle. The other is winning the rushing war. And in this game, I think we finished up with 122 yards rushing, and we held them to 46 yards rushing. So those are big things. Obviously, scoring, we were 4 out of 4 in the red zone of putting points on the board. They were 1 out of 3, playing well on special teams. So there's 4 or 5 things that if you do it every single Saturday, you've got a great chance to have a chance to win the game.
Me and Hurley noticed throughout the game, and especially coming back from halftime, the energy the players brought all throughout the game. I mean, they were jumping up and down on the sidelines, firing each other up. I mean, they brought their own energy, and I think, playing in front of family has part to do with that, be it the senior night festivities. But, the emotions of that game, you noted everyone, all the seniors speaking that night before. You gave them an opportunity to speak. Just take me through that meeting.
Yeah.
A special moment for them. They've been through a lot here at FIU, come so close to bowl games before, and then a chance to really just express that the night before the game.
AJ, and it is. I mean, you wish that some of those kinds of things would be where fans and alums and people that really care about this program would get a little bit of an opportunity to not only hear some of those things, but to see, the commitment that these guys have. And the seniors got up and they talked a little bit about their career, what it was like being here, going through the tough times, the adversity, the early couple of years when the program wasn't doing as well, what it's like today, and then having guys in the room, the freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and getting up and talking about those guys, about their leadership and how much they mean as far as setting an example. And this senior class, AJ, I mean, fans that aren't familiar with this team, there's some great kids in this class. The Anthony Wentz and the Alex Magoo's, and like I said, there's 19 of them. And these guys, not only are they good football players, but they've done an excellent job of being great role models and leaders.
Looking back at some of the plays from this game, that heave from Alex Magoo and the stat sheet, it goes down as an official 42-yard completion. but you watch the tape, he somehow avoids a blitz up the middle, scrambles, which he does such a great job, and he heaves that from his own 43, nearly off his back foot, and put it in a perfect position. I think the defenders may have underestimated. That's why they were a little up from Darius Scott. And he said after the game, he wasn't even looking at Darius on the play, but then found him streaking down the field and said, "Hey, let's go deep and make a play." I mean, the guts to make that play.
Well, the one thing, AJ, that you got to say about Alex is, and I think every single pro scout that's come through here, they recognize it. He's got a little bit of magic about him in that when things break down, he's got the ability, because of his athletic ability with his legs, to extend plays. He can get outside the pocket. He can scramble. He can run if he has to. And we've seen him pick up 10, 12, 14, 15 yards on a scramble. But keeping plays alive, and then all of a sudden, if you don't plaster, he's got an arm. He literally, like you said, he threw it 53 yards down the field, and Darius Scott out-jumped him in the end zone for a touchdown. But that's the kind of player that he is, and I think that's what it's been huge with this football team this season offensively, and his ability to try to create some plays when things don't go good, and that's something that a lot of quarterbacks can't do.
Yeah. Posted on Twitter earlier this morning asking fans if they had any questions or whatnot. And John Machado wanted to ask you about the younger guys on the team, the Sherman Thorntons and Bryce Singletons. I'm going to bring up a drive real quick that happened in the second quarter. You get the ball with 12:35 to go, down to touchdown. And just looking at the drive sheet, you've got on 3rd and 8, a 13-yard pass to Thornton. Okay, a little bit later, a 9-yard pass to Thornton. This freshman who only started playing a couple of games ago. All right, now 2nd and 7, 29 yards to Bryce Singleton, who's playing in place of Thomas Owens. And then, obviously, Shondarius Phillips finished that drive. So you got big plays from freshmen to tie the game, and it kind of signaled, hey, we're going to lose a lot of seniors, but there's guys ready to step up next year.
Well, AJ, one of the things, I've always been a devout believer that when freshmen are ready to play, get them in the game. Whether it's in backup roles, special teams roles, and then if they eventually become the starters, you've got to get them on the field. And thus far this season, between true real freshmen and redshirt freshmen, we've played 23.
Yeah.
And some of them, their roles are playing on special teams, which is unbelievably important because you're going to play 25 to 30 snaps on special teams, and they're covering kicks, they're covering punts, they're doing all the return stuff. You just referenced 2 guys as wide receivers. One of the things when we took this program over, a big significant issue that we felt like coming out of spring practice was we didn't have the depth.
Yeah,
we were concerned about the depth in just about every single position. And fortunately, for the most part, we've lost some unbelievable players. Like, Julian Williams has been hurt all season long, and T.O. has been hurt. So there's 2 receivers. So what happens is now you step up with some freshmen that come in and really start to try to help you there. And and Devontae Price, I mean, everybody has seen some of his contributions offensively and on special teams. So that's how you grow your depth, is you give those freshmen opportunities to come in and play, and then it kind of makes them a little bit better next year. We're not looking at the future now. We've still got one super important game this weekend against UMass, and then obviously hopefully in a bowl game and stuff. But so the guys aren't, the first time they've ever played is next year. It's great that these guys are getting a chance to play.
One thing I've wondered, it's with freshmen you always search for consistency, and throughout camp, throughout practice, throughout the entire season. Do you feel it's easier, or it's for freshmen, once they realize, it's my time to step up, you start seeing that extra effort from them in practice, or have you seen consistency from them through the year, and they've just been behind some really great players? What's the dynamic?
Well, the dynamic of it is, and that's a great question, AJ, is that when kids know they're going in the game, they're focused during the week in practice. The amount of investment they put in watching film, studying their opponent is dramatically uplifted. If we had the depth, one of the things that I would love to do, and maybe we'll be there next year, is I'd like to, for an example, we did this at Miami, we did it at North Carolina, is say, okay, the second offensive line, no matter what the score is, no matter what the field position is, you guys are going in the game the third possession of the game. And let me just tell you something. That's how you grow great players. And they know they're playing. They know they're going in the game. It's a little easier sometimes with the receivers because you're probably playing, 4, 5, 6 receivers every single game just because of the amount of yardage that they have to run. You got to keep fresh guys. But it's the same way with defensive linemen. I mean, Noah Curtis this year and Kevin Oliver, 2 defensive linemen as true freshmen. They have played in almost every single game, and they started off 4, 5, 6 plays, then it was 12 or 13, then it's 15 or 18, and obviously they know they're going to have to play. They know they're going in the game, so their work during the course of the week is dramatically different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That certainly correlates. Let's go towards the later portion of the game here. One of the most exciting plays we've seen all season, the special teams trick play with Stones throwing that touchdown. I told Hurley, and I didn't know how I wasn't eloquent at all. I said, Hurley, that was awesome.
Because it took the words away. Yeah.
Jose goes to the left side of the line. I said, oh, here we go. And Stone walks up with all the confidence in the world behind the line of scrimmage, says, Newt, let's go, get in motion. It was slow motion. A lot of these special teams trick plays, it's quick. Change formation, boom, let's go, while they're surprised. It was slow developing, but the defense lost their focus. They lost Farrell McKeever on the opposite side. How often had that play been practiced? You said you knew that you've seen the guys throw the ball in practice and they're good throwers, but that Stone's pass was had a little bit more arc on it than you probably want to. Take me through that play.
Well, during the course of over the last couple of weeks, as we had practiced it and really felt confident that it was down, to where you said, hey, you know what, we're going to complete this. This is going to really work against certain teams, and and in practice, Stone had actually thrown like lasers. I mean, they were like, and if he'd have hit Farrell, he would have probably run in untouched into the end zone. But he put a little bit of air, which obviously the excitement, the adrenaline rush of like, I got to make sure this is a completion. I mean, it would have been devastating to throw an incomplete pass or throw it over his head. And
he just wanted to give Farrell a chance to show off his athleticism.
Absolutely, and he's a big target, so it's pretty easy to not miss him.
Coach, taking a step back here and talking about going back to the beginning of your tenure here. And assembling the coaching staff, you go, you bring someone in as the recruiting coordinator. You knew from Carolina, recruited Bryn Renner, a guy I wanted to touch on here, one of your guys at Carolina. Bounced around in free agency a little bit, but what did you see out of him to influence you to bring him on staff? I mean, he's been a big part of recruiting. A lot of 3-star guys have already recruited. What went into that, and how have you loved coaching with the guy that you recruited?
Well, first of all, obviously, I mean, I think the world of him. I mean, I recruited him out of high school. I've known his family, known his father, who played at the Green Bay Packers, and Bryn is just he is an unbelievable, devoted guy to the sport. He loves absolutely everything about it. He loves coaching it. He likes recruiting. He likes the analogies of being able to look at players. He's got great personality. His work ethic is unbelievable. I mean, the amount of hours that he's spending in organizing, official visits and the camps and all the stuff that, goes into recruiting when we bring kids in unofficially, for football games, and him doing campus tours. I mean, academic appointments and those kinds of things. I mean, he's doing great. But, the thing about about it that I think is that, he has played at the highest level. He's been a starting quarterback, led North Carolina. They had some great seasons when he was the starting quarterback. He got a chance to play for the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos and the Steelers. So when you get a chance to play, even if you don't have a great career, even if it doesn't last very long, you get a chance to be around the elite players. And you get a chance to look at what makes an offensive lineman unique and special, what makes a corner unique and special, not only from the playing perspective against them, but your teammates, the kids that you practice against. You can go to training camp, and I think that's a great advantage for anybody getting a chance to get into this profession. Is that when you really, because recruiting is the lifeblood of a program, and if you're going to be a really good position coach or a coordinator someday or a head coach, you better know how to recruit and you better know how to pick the players. And we're very, very fortunate to have Brent in that role right now.
Yeah, I felt we should touch on that with all the momentum around recruiting right now and recent signings, and conversely on your staff as well. You were able to bring in 2 guys with head coaching experience. What were you looking for as you looked around for coordinators and you eventually got in touch with Rich and Brent? What went into those hirings?
Yeah, basically what you said. I mean, you like the idea that both of them have formerly been head coaches because they were coordinators at big programs. They've had super success. But there's something about, if you've been a head coach, you have the perspective and the uniqueness that it's not just about one side of the ball or the other. That it's a complementary thing. Sitting in the press box beside each other and getting a feel of knowing, okay, hey, maybe the offense is struggling a little bit. This is what we need to do defensively. Our defense is struggling a little bit. We need to slow the tempo, pick the tempo up. We need to finish drives, as opposed to some young guys that it's all about stats and it's all about, what can we do, but it's not complementary to what the game's going on. And I think that in both of those guys, they're terrific teachers. That's, to me, is the deal breaker with just about any position coach or a coordinator is you better be able to teach, because most of the kids we get, they've got maybe 1, 2, 3 years of high school football under their belt, and they have just started to scratch the surface. So you need guys that are detailed, they're organized, and they're really good teachers.
Coach, final thing here. I fell into the trap a couple weeks ago after win 6 of trying to talk about bowl games, and I'm not going to talk about bowl games here because this week is all about UMass, a team that has played well at certain times this season. I mean, they almost went into Neyland Stadium earlier and earned a win over Tennessee. They played a tough schedule at times, and it'll be a great challenge to get win number 8 here. The preparation's already begun. What do you see out of UMass here earlier in the week? It's a chance to tie the program record for wins at win number 8 in the regular season.
Well, that's a nice thing to talk about when the season's over with. But obviously, it's just about we kind of set the bar last week of okay, if you play really, really well in all 3 phases, this is the possibility of the outcome of a game. We want to try to do the same thing, play the very best that we possibly can in all 3 phases on an individual basis, but certainly within the schemes. And if you play well, then you have no regrets at the end of the game, regardless of the outcome. You'll be okay. And watching UMass, I mean, they've won 4 of their last 5 games, and the only loss they had was against Mississippi State, and that was a dogfight. I mean, they were right in that fight for the whole time. Their quarterback is very, very good. He's an excellent passer. They've got very good wide receivers. Defensively, they're very athletic. They give people a lot of bad plays. The games that we're early in the formation of just doing the game plan and breaking things down and looking at them over last night and all day today. But they do give people a lot of trouble, from a defensive perspective. So you don't get on a roll. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and they've had 2 weeks to get ready for this game.
Yeah, true. That's something to take note of as well. Should be a lot of fun in the final game of the regular season. Noon kickoff, new start. Set those alarms early.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gotta get out to the tailgates early. I'm gonna visit some tailgates this week, so I'm excited.
That'll be good.
Gotta get around. I hope we see a great crowd this weekend in the home finale at Ricardo Silva Stadium. Coach, congratulations on win number 7. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, AJ.